All right, and we're live. Welcome in to a surprise Tuesday stream. I was supposed to work this morning. I didn't have to, luckily. So I kind of bought some time. Decided after a little bit of work in the morning that I would decide to do a stream and really walk through a mock draft for the first time live this year. And I did some live mock drafting ahead of the last draft, 2021, which was really huge for the channel. Not the live streams themselves, the actual reactions to the draft picks. And I'm hoping maybe this year, I know I have a few more subscribers now. Hopefully, some of these live streams will get a little bit more attention. Probably not, but I want to try anyways. So the deal today is we have the Draft Network's mock draft simulator pulled up right here. I'm gonna ask Siri to pick a random number between 1 and 32. Depending on which number she picks, is the team in the draft order we're picking for. So whoever's picking, say she says 27. Whoever's picking 27, we're gonna be picking for that team, walking through mock drafts, and we'll do it for a couple of teams, I believe. Of course, 7 round mock drafts. And we're going to be doing this for maybe 30 to 45 minutes. And we're just going to be walking through the draft. It's going to be a bit of a learning process for both of us. Gaming with Brady, hello. Nice to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Uh, but yeah, we're gonna be kind of doing this for a little bit of every team. And it's going to be a bit of a learning process for both of us because I know a lot of prospects in the top 100 selections. I don't admittedly know a ton once we get towards the back end, the 7th round. It's going to take a few more months for me to get all that down. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a learning process today for everyone involved. And Gaming with Brady, thank you for joining me. See, we're up to 2 viewers right now, so that's nice. But right now, let's pick the number. Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 32. Random number between 1 and 32 is 8. All right. Who's picking 8th? 8th is the Atlanta Falcons. Well, that's an interesting team to pick for. All right. We'll get that loaded up right now. And again, we're doing 7 round mock drafts using the Draft Network's predictive board as our basis for where players are ranked. So you see them rank anywhere that you don't necessarily agree with. It's not me making these selections. It's the Draft Network putting up the order. And we're just going to run through it. I know sometimes it has a tendency to skip user picks sometimes, so I'm going to do my best to avoid that from happening by trying to occasionally pause the draft and let it reset a little bit. So here we have Atlanta at 8. And immediately, one thing I think about with the Falcons is, quarterback's an issue for them. And Matt Ryan is he's getting up there in age. He's performing poorly this year. Part of that is the lack of offensive weapons. Part of it's the offensive line. There are a lot of concerns with the Atlanta Falcons. But frankly, even if the offensive line and receivers vastly improved, Matt Ryan's probably down to his last 2 or 3 years in the NFL. And if he does 3 years, I imagine that last year will probably be a little bit of a train wreck. Now, we do have some options here. Evan Neal, Matt Corral, DeMarvin Leal are the 3 guys who I'm looking at right now. And we basically just removed DeMarvin Leal from the whole order because it really comes down to Evan Neal versus Matt Corral. Drafting Matt Corral would not be the worst situation because he can actually sit behind the quarterback and he buys you 1 extra year to go into next draft and maybe get some more protective pieces around him to support him. On the other hand, you would just take Evan Neal right now, get arguably the best tackle in the class, and then take your quarterback next year when there's presumably going to be more rookie quarterbacks that are known factors. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take Evan Neal. And it really does come down to Matt Corral versus Evan Neal. I think taking Evan Neal, building that offensive line at first, because you do have some vets in the offensive line. There's some decent tackles in that team. But really, it's getting to a point where you have to start considering maybe there's a long-term rebuild coming here that could really throw things off. And someone like Caleb McGarry, who you used a high-round pick on, has not necessarily worked out to the level you were hoping he would. So I'm just going to take Evan Neal here, and we're going to pass on the quarterback for now. And we're going to wait. I remember this being a little bit faster. I thought there maybe was a speed selection for it, but maybe I missed that. That's all right. And they will make occasional trade offers with you. That's something you can do if you have a membership for the Draft Network. They will make trade offers that you can either like to take or deny. And if you're tuning in live right now, feel free to throw any questions you have in the chat. Feel free to talk. I'll be looking at the chat occasionally to kind of respond to any questions you have about the NFL season in general, about the draft, whatever you want to talk about. I'm here for it. Especially because we have such a long wait between picks. All right. Pick number 40. We got an offensive lineman. What else is left for their do? The Falcons need a lot, frankly, for their team right now. Atlanta has a decent coaching staff. I think you can have some success with. But right now, Calvin Ridley, with the situation going with him not having Julio Jones, I wouldn't be shocked if you look at wide receiver for a pick. We already took an offensive lineman. I say quarterback. There's a good quarterback available in the second round, which there might be actually. No, there isn't. Okay, that's all right. I was gonna say quarterback in the second round, perhaps, especially someone like Carson Strong. He's down that far. I would definitely take a guy like Carson Strong in the second round. Edge rusher, corner, almost every place in the defense. You can really take selections on that side of the ball. Kobe Dean's there. That's interesting, but probably not a pick that Atlanta needs to make right now. Cornerback Mikael Wright, Darion Kendrick. Yeah, the cornerback class. I might honestly take Kyler Gordon over those guys, if I'm being honest. Maybe wait around on that one. And the edge group is kind of picked over too, man. Dang. Although Arnold Ebiketie and Zach Harrison are both really good players, but I know I'm taking you. Yeah, it's pretty easy. There's a big discrepancy in how some networks evaluate certain players. Kingsley Enagbare is one of those guys where certain groups are very high on him and certain groups are not. TDN is obviously on the lower side, but there are other programs and other organizations that really like Enagbare as a first round pick, and I am certainly one of those guys. So taking Enagbare from South Carolina there makes a ton of sense for Atlanta. That's a steal, really, if you're going to get him in the 40s. As you can see, we got trade offers coming in. I'm not doing any trades today just because that would take a lot more time and a lot more thought into it. And I just kind of want to go through the drafts a little bit naturally right now. All right. What's the quarterback market look like still? Still Tanner McKee out there. Maybe at pick 72, I might be considering going for Tanner McKee or Will Levis, or maybe even keeping Slovis that far down, but not in the second round. Travis Jones is an interesting one. Travis Jones to me is a guy who could be a second round pick from UConn. Very good interior defensive lineman, probably a little bit underrated here. And he's stacked up with a bunch of guys who I think are pretty good. Harry Winfrey to me has been a bit of a disappointment at Oklahoma. He's underachieved to me. And he gets blown out the ball load so easily, so I'm not going to take him here. I would rather have Travis Jones or Fredarian Mathis, who from Alabama was highly underrated. He's been very good this year. Tyler Davis from Clemson is also very good. He's probably worth a second round pick in terms of talent, but he's always injured, so it's hard to justify taking him with the top 60 selection. We're just looking at Atlanta's depth chart right now. So interior defensive line, someone to play alongside Grady Jarrett would be great. Safety would be great. They drafted Richie Grant this past year. Corner, still an issue. Outside, opposite of AJ Terrell, they need another guy. Let's see. Who's out there? Darian Kendrick is still out there from Georgia. Well, I've gotten to see a lot of good tape from him so far this year. He's done fairly well. He's done better at Georgia than he has at Clemson, I'll say that much. At least in terms of facing big-name wide receivers. So I think that's a consideration you have to take. Still a lot of good edge rushers. I almost want to double down. It would make no sense to, but I feel like I want to double down just for the heck of it. A lot of good running backs still on the board. Some decent wide receivers. No one I really want to take here. I'm just trying to find the best value, really, for what I'm going to do here. Yeah, I'm going to take Travis Jones. I didn't realize it's represented as a reach on the Draft Network's board, and it probably is in general. It probably should be a third-round pick, but I like the upside a lot more than the upside of taking a corner at this spot because the corners out there, while solid, probably are third-round kind of guys. So I'm not really taking a huge loss. And Darion Kendrick just went. I was hoping he would be around. I'm not going to lie. The quarterbacks are still here, but if Isaiah Spiller's on the board in the third round, this is Atlanta's fourth pick. Your running backs right now are Mike Davis, Cordell Patterson, and Wayne Gallman. Wayne Gallman, by the way, really good, highly underused right now, underutilized. Running back from Clemson was really good with New York last year. And Cordell Patterson obviously has been great. Mike Davis, not so much. If you're looking for a full-time running back, someone like Isaiah Spiller or Kyron Williams or Breece Hall would be fantastic, and they're all here for the picking. So I would think taking one of those guys would be a good move. But for now, let's shop around a little bit. Edge rushers, we already covered that, but Zachary Carr is a bit of a bigger edge rusher. Will be out there. Cameron Thomas, one of the most productive edge rushers this year from San Diego State. So obviously small school competition, but still a very productive guy. And looking at the top available corners, Nehemiah Pritchard's up there. Jermaine Waller's a turnover machine. Kyler Gordon still sticks out to me as a guy I would love to have. Looking further down the list, someone like Noah Daniels, who just has a bunch of physical traits, very quick, very fast. Josh Jobe, Seven Banks, how far they've fallen. Hodges Tomlinson, also all these guys, Josh Jobe, Seven Banks, and Hodges Tomlinson from TCU are all projected to be potential first-round picks going into the year. And they've kind of really taken the worst of it throughout the season. Speaking of someone who fell off quite a bit, Brandon Joseph's still on the board at safety from Northwestern. Also a projected first-round pick in the offseason who has fallen quite a bit down draft board so far. I wish I could see when my next pick was. Actually, I can. Let's do this. My next pick's at 110. Oh, boy. Okay. So there's going to be a big jump between here and my next selection. I'm going to pass on the running back for now. Now, at 110, we can still get a decent cornerback. So I'm going to take Brandon Joseph right now and make that my pick. Yeah, because there's a lot of corners in this class. If I can get Josh Jobe that far down the board, I will be happy. The machine does seem to be running a little bit slower than usual, though. I wonder, it could be my computer, honestly. My computer's getting up there in age. Probably 5 years old now. Gonna need to get another one soon. The way it's run. Now we're just kind of hanging out and just chilling for a few more picks. Coming down the line. A lot of guys I like for the mid-round values are jumping off the board right now. All right, we should still have one of our guys in play. Let's look at the overall board. Who's the best available? Jalil Bensley. That's interesting, but not really promising for us. Abraham Lucas is a really good pass blocking tackle for Washington State. Obviously, that's what they do there. They pass block constantly. Mike Jones Jr. still out there, a very good coverage linebacker, but I'm interested in the corners right now. Ed Ingram at guard's another interesting one. Leo Chenal would be an interesting one too, but he's more of a. I'd almost would like him more to be rushing the passer most of the time, frankly, because his production comes mostly when he's getting downhill. So cornerbacks. Oh, Riley Moss is here too. Interesting. So Kobe Bryant versus Josh Jobe versus Seven Banks versus Hodges Tomlinson. Who do I want the most here? Tyrone Mullins on the board as well. I'm going to go with Josh Jobe. I think Kobe Bryant's been very good this year, but Kobe Bryant did let up a pretty big play against Houston, so I'm going to go with Jobe just based on some of the receivers he's had to play in the SEC. But I can understand there's competition now between those two guys. Looking at the quarterback board, I could have had Will Levis, I could have had JT Daniels or Keaton Slovis. I might still get Keaton Slovis, honestly, the way the board's going right now. The quarterbacks are not coming off at all. All right, from Gaming with Brady, who do I think the best team in the NFL is? The hottest team in the NFL right now is New England Patriots, and I can say that pretty confidently. The coaching is phenomenal, as always, as expected. The offensive line is monstrous for the running game that they're trying to run heavily right now. Obviously, if you watched last night, you would know they were just running the ball constantly, trying to take advantage of the fact that the weather and the climate was playing to their style of play. They love to run the ball. They have a whole stable of running backs who are all very good, all very talented. Damian Harris is great. Ramondre Stevenson is really good. Yeah, Brandon Bolden has kind of rekindled his career yet again in New England. And the offensive line is just built for run blocking. So the fact that they're able to do that makes them tremendous. And they have gotten bigger on both sides of the ball in terms of upfront, linebacker, secondary. And it's really profited. It's really benefited them to have size and have power on both sides of the ball this year, which is why they're the hottest team in the NFL. Now, the best team in the NFL, in my opinion, Arizona, probably Arizona, just based on the fact that when they're healthy on offense and defense, the defense is not great, but the defense makes just enough plays to stay in games, and the offense is just so high scoring. and have so many receiving options now and scoring options that are just good enough to win most games. Now, if you pit Arizona versus New England today, I might pick New England to win. But overall, I think Arizona is probably the best team in the NFL, if that makes sense. Uh, okay. The quarterback board's not looking great. I honestly would not want to pick any one of these guys at this point. Uh, yeah, not in the fifth round. None of these guys are going to go. Running back Zonovan Knight's still there. That's an interesting one. Zamir White, Eric Gray. So there are some good running backs still available this late. Rashad White from Arizona State. That's a really interesting one. I might be tempted to take him honestly right here. That's a really good one. I would be pretty dumb to let that one go unless something else is really eminent, like a really good pick here. Boye Mafe could be a really good pick here. I would admit that. The edge rushers are just stacked up because there's so many good ones. Josh Pascal would be a pretty good pick here. What about in the second year again? What if I go back to corner? They're good players here. Storm Duck from North Carolina, someone who kind of underachieved this year because he's injured. Joey Porter Jr. should probably be higher up the board, in my opinion. Marcus Jones from Houston does not get enough love. He's a tremendous return man. And tackle is mostly shot right now. Stuber from Michigan's really good. I think he's underrated. Uh, yeah. So I'm getting is corner, and safety from looking at this, and edge rusher are still loaded with so many guys who are really good players. Running backs also got a pretty good number of guys. Receiver, I'm not really in on taking receiver at this point because a lot of these guys are come with so many asterisks or question marks. I'm not really in on any of them. Although Jarrett Stearns, one more round down, I could be tempted to take Jarrett Stearns. He's been super productive this year, but he doesn't really have NFL size. Man. Oh, what am I going to do? Yeah, I'm going to take Rashad White from Arizona State. Really good receiving back. Been highly productive this year. I think he's going to be a pretty good NFL back. And it's probably someone I'm higher on than most people, but I'm willing to accept that and just roll with it. Because in my opinion, I would rather have him than Zonovan Knight, frankly. Zonovan Knight to me is a little bit more one-dimensional than I would like. Same thing with someone like Jaron Ely is more of that scat back, that receiving back. Someone's a little bit more one-dimensional. Chris Rodriguez Jr., once again, like one-dimensional power back kind of guy. Uh, at this point, there's really no point taking a quarterback. I could see someone like Grayson McCall turning into a decent QB, but his arm strength really isn't there. I could see Tulia Tagovailoa turning into a decent quarterback, but there's no one I would really want to stake my name on, if that makes sense. Which is basically what you're doing in the NFL when you make a draft pick. Uh, do I have any more picks after this? Let's see. No, this is it. So I have to make this one count. I'm probably going to leave receiver alone. That's a spot you can usually address in free agency if you want to and get some success in there. It might be worth going back for another edge rusher right now because there are still good linebackers available too if I wanted to go there. Edge rusher, linebacker, corner, safety all have decent players who are still available. So let's look at my picks real quickly. I'm going to double down corner. Riley Moss is a guy I like a lot. Storm Duck, though, to me, is another one who I think if he falls this far would be hard to pass up. Same with Marcus Jones. Same with Joey Porter Jr. It's just a question of who. Jacoby Durant's also a very good player. Uh, oof. This is tougher than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to take Storm Duck with the acknowledgement that Riley Moss and Joey Porter Jr. might be better players. I'm just going to take the risk. And we'll let it play out from there. So this is going to be my draft class for Atlanta. Evan Neal, Kingsley Enagbare, Travis Jones, Brandon Joseph, Josh Joe, Rashad White, and Storm Duck. I like that draft class. I really feel comfortable with that. I will say not taking a corner or not taking a quarterback and not taking a wide receiver, probably going to set off some alarms. I can imagine Atlanta fans not being too happy about that. The issue is just going to be like the value never felt right for any of the quarterbacks available, and I never felt like any of the QBs that were available in the mid rounds were going to turn to starters. So why take them at all? Uh, and then for receiver, like I said, a lot of guys come with a lot of asterisks. If you trade back into like the 7th round, there's probably a lot of guys on the board right now that are worth the pick. I just would not be comfortable doing that myself. Yeah, we'll probably run this until 12 o'clock, I would say. So another 22 minutes or so. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll take another 22 minutes, and then we'll kind of wind down from there. So I'll try to speed it up, maybe get 2 more teams in. All right. Screenshot this so I can post to Twitter later. All right. That's it for Atlanta. Let's start another one. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 32. The random number is 2. The Houston Texans. This should be fun. Houston basically needs help everywhere. Outside of like someone like Brandon Cooks. They just don't have. Yeah, there's a speed option. I know I messed that up. Okay. Outside of someone like Brandon Cooks, what does Houston have? I mean, Houston has some guys on the defensive line who have played fairly well recently, but it's not a star-studded group. And it's not a group that I think will consistently perform at a high level. But for now, let's see what we can do for the Houston Texans. Again, I'm not doing any trades for this video. And oh boy, we have a choice to make right away. So we got Kyle Hamilton, Derek Stingley, Aiden Hutchinson are on the board. It's really a pick between those 3 for me for this number 2 spot. And it's between those 3. I understand Derek Stingley was a generational type performer in 2019. He has not been that past 2 years. Kyle Hamilton's coming off an injury. Even though he probably is the most physically unique player for his position in the draft, I'm taking Aiden Hutchinson. Because Aiden Hutchinson is the top player on my board after what he did to Ohio State. And we got 2 second. No, we don't have 2 second round picks. Atlanta had 2 second round picks. We're going to have a bunch of picks coming up here, though, hopefully. I don't think the Texans have anything special in terms of draft capital this year. Let me look at their picks. So a 2, 2 3s, a 4th, a 5th, a 2 6, and a 7. I mean, it's not great. This is not a team that's going to be able to turn around in a year or 2 because they just don't have the assets to make those kind of picks. Do you think Clemson's quarterback will ever go to the NFL? DJ Uiagalelei was looking like he'd be a high future NFL pick after 2020. He stepped in for Trevor Lawrence. He was tremendous against Notre Dame, really good against Boston College. And losing Cornell Powell, Amari Rodgers, Travis Etienne, Jackson Carman seemed to have really affected him this year because he looked god-awful in a lot of games this year. So I would say, based on what I saw from him in 2021, as a Clemson fan, will he make it in the NFL? He'll probably be an undrafted free agent signed by someone eventually. But I don't even know if he's going to finish his career at Clemson because Clemson, correct me if I'm wrong, has a 5-star recruit coming in at quarterback this year, I believe. Let me check really quickly. This year, like the year after that. Yeah, so Cade Klubnik, I believe I say his last name, 5-star quarterback recruit, number 1 in the nation at his position, according to 24/7 Sports. So you got a 5-star QB coming in. Uiagalelei is obviously a high-rated prospect himself, or high-rated recruit himself coming out of high school, but he just has not looked the part. And he was so inaccurate at points this year that I don't see him personally going to the NFL. I could see him actually end up being benched at some point and transferring from Clemson to some other school, similar to Kelly Bryant, where Kelly Bryant was benched for Trevor Lawrence and ended up transferring. I could see the same thing happening with DJ Uyunglele. And it's not anything personal against him. It's just that he was not very good this year. And Clemson, frankly, if they had better quarterback play, they would have won probably one or two more games. They probably would have won the game against NC State. And they probably would have won the game against Georgia, frankly, because it was very close. So, yeah, I think there's a chance DJ doesn't make the NFL. And there's even a better chance that he probably gets benched or transfers at some point during his collegiate career. Now, he could turn everything around next year and make me look a fool. And I would gladly welcome that as a Clemson alum. But, it's kind of hard to tell right now. Back to the mock draft. Pick 34. Houston's back on the board. Already, I'm looking at Jameson Williams, a guy who could arguably be the best receiver in this class just based on what he's done in college with his speed. So dynamic, so elite. And if you're looking at the Houston Texans, I'll pull up their draft order right now. Not the draft order, their depth chart. They don't really have much. Like I said, took Nico Collins last year. He could be a decent receiver. They have Brandon Cooks already. You have Larry Tunsil at left tackle, even though he's not really playing a lot. He's been hurt, banged up this year, in and out of the lineup. And what else do you have? Jonathan Grenard. Grenard has looked pretty good at defensive end this year. You have Zach Cunningham at linebacker. You got Justin Reed in the secondary. And that's about it. So I think at this point you can take any position you want if you're the Houston Texans. And just quickly flipping through here. Oh, Carson Strong's available. That's interesting to me, actually. Carson Strong I might actually take Carson Strong here. But the top guys for my personal board who are still available: Jameson Williams, Drake London, Bernard Raymond, Devontae Wyatt, Arnold Ebikebi, Kingsley Enagbare, Nick Benito, Nakobe Dean, Brandon Smith, and Roger McCreary are probably the top guys available, and Daxton Hill, Jordan Battle. So those are my top guys who are available right now. And while I would love to take McCreary here, I think, and Jameson Williams, frankly, I think you have to take Carson Strong. Because you can't go in next year with another year of Davis Mills and Tyrod Taylor. I think it's worth the risk taking Carson Strong here. Because even if he doesn't pan out, at least you can say you were tried. Because as it is right now, that coaching staff is going to be fired probably at the end of this year, if not the end of next year, with the way things are going. You have to try to get another QB in there. So I'm looking at taking Carson Strong here. And give me with Brady. If you have any other questions, just shoot them to me. I would really appreciate something to talk about here as I'm waiting through the board to kind of fill out. This is the one thing, though, I don't love about this simulator is that when you have a membership, they can offer you trades. They offer you a heck of a lot of trades. You get spam trades. So you can't really run through a mock draft too quickly. It is a really nice function to have, though. Okay, we're on the board at pick 66. Don't need a QB anymore. Corners. Let's go corners. Kyler Gordon. That's a guy I love. I love to see that. I love to see he's on the board still. I'm probably going to go there unless I see someone else I really, really like. Which could happen, of course. The edges. Jermaine Johnson's really good. Arnold Ebikebi still on the board. Kingsley Enagbare. I won't take him again because I know it's kind of cheesing it because, well, first off, I already took an edge. But, in most other simulators, he would not be on the board at this point. So I'm not going to keep going back and taking him over and over. That would kind of feel like cheating. Bernard Raymond's still there. So is Max Mitchell. Interesting. Yeah, Arnold Ebikebi's really good, but again, we already took an edge rusher, so I'm probably going to pass on that. Safeties, Brandon Joseph's still out there, but I'm not going to take him again. I'll take Kyler Gordon. I really do think the Washington secondary, the Washington corners this year, have just been so good. Him and Trent McDuffie are phenomenal. Washington, for the most part, the past couple of years, has done a really good job of producing NFL talent, especially out of that secondary. All right, thank you for carrying the show, Gaming with Brady. Do I think Clemson will be back next year? Let me pull their recruiting class up one more time. I feel strongly that Clemson will be in a better rhythm next year. Let me put it that way, because they were never really in a proper rhythm this year until the end of the season when they started to get a couple of wins. But look at what they're losing potentially this year. Bio Goodrich, Andrew Booth, possibly Sheridan Jones at corner. So your three top corners. James Skalski is going to be gone. Tyler Davis will probably be gone. Not that he was playing much this year anyways. He was banged up and hurt a lot of the time. Justin McGowan will probably be gone. Justin Ross will probably be gone, which might not be the worst thing in the world. Brenton Galloway will be gone. Yeah, I don't think Clemson will be back next year because Brent Venables is also gone. The AD is changing. He's going to Miami, I'm pretty sure. So I don't think Clemson's going to be back next year per se. We do have some really good corners coming in, a couple 4-stars. Actually, I think we have 3 4-star corners coming in, which is nice because we absolutely need those guys if our cornerback depth charts can get destroyed this offseason. Cade coming in at quarterback will certainly help. And I want Clemson to come back. Don't get me wrong. I want Clemson to be back next year. I just don't see it from a personnel standpoint. You're losing too many guys in the draft. And frankly, Clemson has not recruited or used the transfer portal at the same rate that the other big schools have. Alabama, much better at recruiting, much better at using the transfer portal. Ohio State gets recruits for days and gets guys from the transfer portal. And Clemson has just not done that. Georgia does the same thing. Georgia has guys transferring out because they have so many guys on their depth chart. Clemson, to me, is just underwhelmed in recruiting and in using the transfer portal because we have more guys transferring out than we have transferring in most times. And that's probably the thing for a lot of schools, but we're losing a lot of talent in the transfer portal more so than we're bringing in. So I don't think Clemson's going to be back next year. Now, it's a weak ACC, so you never know. But I don't think Clemson will be back to the same level where they were competing for national championships every year. They could win the ACC next year, but they might do as a 2-loss team and might not make the college football playoff because of that. All right, pick 87. Romeo Dubs here is probably going to be the pick at receiver, just because they do need someone to throw to eventually. Actually, no, probably Bernard Raymond actually is going to be the pick. Been really good at Central Michigan. I understand picking a smaller school guy like that is sometimes a bit of an issue for some people, maybe a little bit of a reach. I'm willing to do it. I've seen enough small school guys work out in the NFL to believe that there's value in taking the small school prospect. So that'll be a new offensive tackle for the lineup. Should help out for depth, especially as Larry Tunsil continues to miss time in the future. I forgot how much these live streams take out of me. My throat is hurting right now from just talking so much. I forgot how much these live streams do. I'm glad I'm only doing it to 12. I'll probably try to actually run through one more team after this, just because I want to. I don't want to just do 2. Yeah, Romeo Dubs still being on the board here. That's not going to happen. There's no way Romeo Dubs is still on the board in the 4th round. I have a really hard time believing that. And there are some good prospects available, but boy, Mafe. Yeah, I'm just gonna prioritize getting as many good players as possible at as many different positions as possible. Romeo Dubs to me is an easy dub. It's an easy pick for me. Very physical, not a tall receiver, but a very physically well-built receiver. Think about a guy like Tyreek Hill's build, smaller guy, but just absolutely bulked up. I think he could be like that in the NFL level. Yeah, another pick here. Let's see. Probably going to go edge or corner again just because those positions are so loaded. It just makes sense to keep going back to them over and over again. Although Kellen Deich is here from Arizona State, which wouldn't be a bad pick. Yeah, we're going to go. Who are the corners available? You can still get Joey Porter Jr. basically whenever we want him. Marcus Jones is going to be down there. Yeah, there are plenty of corners we can get almost whenever we want. For edge rushers, let's see. Boye Mafe, not a lot of production this year, but a lot of good physical traits. Josh Pascal's the other one I would look at. He's been really good this year. Xavier Thomas from Clemson, he's gonna be underrated this year. He's gonna be underrated in the draft. Thomas is going to be a solid NFL player, even if he was never really the guy he was supposed to be in college. And Sam Williams was also very productive this year. Um, I'm gonna take Sam Williams from Ole Miss. He was very good this year. His production's been through the roof. His sack number's been very good. Gaming with Brady. Do you think Dabo is a good coach? I think Dabo is a very good coach, but I don't think Dabo is Nick Saban. I don't think Dabo. How do I put this? There's an elite tier of coaches right now, and it's really just Nick Saban, to be honest. There's other guys out there who are pretty good, who kind of inspire recruiting wise better than Dabo. Like Lincoln Riley going to USC already has a bunch of guys decommitting from Oklahoma and recommitting to USC. He's got guys looking at him in the transfer portal. I'm not saying Lincoln Riley is a better coach than Dabo. I think Lincoln Riley is better because I think he's better at inspiring guys to follow him. I think he's better at inspiring guys to kind of come to his school than someone like Dabo. I think guys like Nick Saban are better somehow at getting guys to come to their schools than Dabo. And I think that because Lincoln Riley is more involved in the play calling on offense, and it's more identifiable to see that, you might view him as a better coach because he does a little bit more than Dabo per se. I don't know. I think Dabo is still a really good coach, and Dabo is a championship caliber coach. I just don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to remain at the level that he's been at the past 3 or 4 years, or 5 years. It would be difficult for him to stay there. And it's not because he's a bad coach, like I said. It's just because he set such a high bar. And at some point, a lot of these programs, it's rare to see an Alabama program that just is consistently good over 20 years. It doesn't happen very often. Although I guess it's been more like 10 years. So yes, he's a good coach, but he's just not, to me, not that next level kind of coach that's like Nick Saban. He's not that level. Still can wait another round for the corners if I want to. How many picks do I have left? 3. Let's get a safety then. Let's get a safety right now. I do like Xavier Henderson quite a bit. I know he's more of a box safety based on what he did. A lot of these guys are more like box safeties. But Bolden, Demani Richardson, those kind of guys are more box safeties to me than anything else. But I think we can take one of those and be all right with it, considering what you have on the roster currently for Houston. Assuming you stick with Justin Reed moving forward. So I'm going to take Xavier Henderson. Again, this time I'm going to take a corner, just double up in positions that are really good and really loaded. Because like I said, at this point, you're just drafting to get as many good players on your team as possible. My personal bias is going to come into play here. I'm taking someone who's a little bit raw but very physically talented, Joey Porter Jr. In reality, I expect Porter Jr. to go much higher in the draft than that spot. And we should have one more pick here. And then we'll do one more mock after this. It's wild to me, though. Like, look at the guys who are still on the board. Like, Tyreek Smith from Ohio State at edge, still on the board. Kennedy Brooks from Oklahoma, still on the board. Chris Rodriguez is still there. Tyler Goodson, Damari Mathis. Like, the fact that these guys, Jacoby McLean is still on the board. The fact that these guys are still there is insane to me. Mike Rose is another one. Like, these are really good players that are making it all the way to the bottom of the draft. I actually know more of these names than I was expecting to know, so I'm actually kind of pleased with myself about that. Yeah, okay. One more pick. Might as well go back to positions that we know are still loaded. Running back still looks pretty good. Wide receivers all right. Tight end. So it's either going to be Tyreek Smith for me, either Tyreek Smith or Tyreek Smith, Avery Jones, or Marcus Jones to me. I'm going to probably go with Marcus Jones just because you can find a way to get him on the field as a slot corner. You can find a way to get corners on the field a little bit easier than defensive ends, in my opinion. You're only going to play so many defensive ends. Nowadays, you can have 3 corners on the field if you want, and if you really want to, you can convert corners to safeties. And someone like Marcus Jones, who's a special teams ace, the best return man in the nation right now, you can definitely use him in a variety of ways. And you can line him up in a variety of positions on defense or on special teams, and you're going to get production from them. All right, we're already at 40 minutes. I didn't think it was going to go this long, but we'll do one more mock draft, and we'll kind of breeze through it, make it a little bit quicker. Hey, Siri, pick a number between 1 and 32. Number's 12. 12 is the Philadelphia Eagles. That's actually a really fun one. I'm glad we're ending on this. Because Philly has 3 first-round picks. But not in the top 10 anymore because they started winning. All right. I'm going all defensive if I can. Or maybe not. There's not as many good players left on the board as I was hoping for. This really broke like crap. Oh, no. All right. I'm a little higher on Andrew Booth Jr. than a lot of people right now. So I'm going to think Andrew Booth Jr. here. So I can reach with one pick if I want to. Because I have so many back to back to back to back. They already have pretty good offensive line. Some aging pieces there, but I still feel like you can put that off until later. David Ojabo. I'm not sold on David Ojabo being this high of a draft pick, if I'm being honest. I'm really not. But I mean, I don't really. You have to take an edge here, I think, if you're Philly. You just have to. I mean, it's either Ojabo to me or Kingsley Enagbare. I'm actually going to take Enagbare. I would rather have him personally. Yeah, this draft board broke pretty poorly. I'm not going to lie. This is probably one of the worst case scenarios. You don't get a Stingley. You don't get Evan Neal. You don't get Karlaftis. You don't get much of anything. You don't get Kyle Hamilton. I guess this is what you can expect. With Miami winning, with the Colts winning, with the Eagles winning, this is kind of what you have to expect. All these draft picks are falling down the board. Now, if you're Philly, would it just be – it would be so awesome if Philly just doubled down a corner, if I'm being honest. Like 2 cornerbacks. Just do it. I know that's going to take – it's ripping a Band-Aid off. I get that, but just do it. Your cornerback depth chart is all right. You have Avonte Maddox at nickel. I forgot about that. So you got Darius Slay and Maddox locked up in the future. You just drafted Zach McPherson last year. You traded for Caravans Jr. and Tay Gowan. You just have to replace Steven Nelson. We already did that. All right. Never mind. I thought I had a good idea. I guess I didn't. Where do you think Justin Ross would go in the draft? I don't know, really. I thought Ross was going to be rebounding well this year. How he'd come back, be a first-round pick potentially. Clearly was not himself for most of the year. And even towards the end, got injured again. The issue with him is just injuries. He was phenomenal as a freshman. I'm taking Jaquan Brisker. He's the second best safety in the draft, by the way. So he's going to go here. Yeah, he's phenomenal. He was so good at jump balls. He was so good at getting vertical when he had a quarterback who could put the ball on him and give him a really good chance of winning 50-50 balls, which are really 70-30 balls for him in his first 2 seasons. And then obviously the neck surgery, and now I couldn't see him going in the first 2 days of the draft. It's got to be round 4 or later. Just because he's banged up, he's hurt all the time at this point. He had too many drops this year, and some bad drops at that. And he doesn't separate. So it's unfortunate because I love Justin Ross. He's one of my favorite players to have watched during my time at Clemson. Right below someone like T. Higgins. But I just can't see him going day 2. Which is a shame because I wanted him to go day 1. Ooh, Malik Willis is available. That's kind of be doubling down on the wrong type though. Like you double down with Malik Willis and Jalen Hurts, and you have 2 very athletic QBs. Obviously, Willis has a stronger arm than Jalen Hurts, but you got guys who have ball placement issues. So you have all the athletic ability in the world, but just don't have great ball placement, have some accuracy issues, and turnover problems. I think Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts has played well enough to me that he deserves the right to go and play out next year and just see how it goes. Uh, Willis is a good quarterback, but I'm not a total fan of him. I don't think he goes in the first round, and I wouldn't be opposed to taking him in the second round, but just not for Philadelphia. Like, give Jalen Hurts some time. I think he can be pretty good. Now, as far as what you do now, if you're Philly, you've taken all these picks, used them on defense. I want to double up on the corners so bad. But hey, Nakobe Dean is still available. I understand you're Philadelphia, you don't take linebackers. I get that. But, but Nakobe Dean is so good. And I'm not worried about the size the way some people are. Nakobe Dean to me is so good that you just have to take him at this point. It's such a great value pick. I really want to double down on corners in this draft. I really want to do it for one team just because it's such a good draft. It's so incredible how good the corners are this year. Okay, am I going to get offered to trade every single pick now until I actually get a chance to pick again? There we go. All right, let me look at the receivers. A lot of running backs. Philly's good. They got Miles Sanders right now. Ooh, receivers more picked over than I imagined it would be. Okay, Romeo Dubs is basically a little too similar to Jalen Rieger for my liking. He's different, obviously. There's a bunch of differences, but he's a little too similar for me to feel comfortable making that pick. I don't think he'll be better than Rieger, but I don't want to be the one to make that call. I guess they're projecting Jamari Salyer will kick in from offensive tackle to guard, which is not bad. Not a bad move. I'm probably leaning towards taking him here because I don't want to take Bernard Raymond again because I've done that once already and I've already talked about him a bunch. Kenneth Walker though. Man, that's really tempting, but I just can't see Philadelphia actually doing that, so I'm not gonna do it myself. Jeremy Ruckert though is the kind of tight end they love. They love that blocking tight end. Uh, I can see him taking Jeremy Ruckert here. That would make a lot of sense for them. But yeah, we'll take Jamari Salyer, who plays left tackle for Georgia right now. But again, they're projecting he'll kick in the guard. How are you liking Will Shipley and Kobe Pace as Clemson running backs? I love them, honestly. I love them. I think Phil Moffitt, too, the guy who's a freshman this year, is more of a power back. I love it. I absolutely think it's going to be one of the best backfields in college football moving forward. It's just a question of can they get an offensive line in front of them that blocks really well for the running game. No, I love Will Shipley's versatility. I think Kobe Pace is a good back. I think Phil Moffitt is a good power back. My only concern would be that one of them ends up transferring just because that's such a loaded backfield right now. And frankly, Kobe Pace is probably good enough to start on a bunch of Division One teams, like a bunch of really good Division One teams too. Will Shipley's going to stay. They're going to prioritize Will Shipley above everyone else, I believe. But I could see Kobe Pace or Phil Maffa believing they're capable of starting somewhere else and potentially transferring, which makes me a little bit worried. But the backfield is super loaded right now. It's probably going to be what's going to have to carry us through next year. So a bright sign that we have so many good young running backs. Romeo Dubs is still available in round 4, which means he'll probably be the pick for me just because it makes sense. It's such a good value pick. I don't want to pass on that. You could also see him potentially swinging for a running back. But they have a bunch of running backs already. They have a bunch of guys in the backfield they feel like they can trust. And Miles Sanders is a good running back. It's just that he does not get enough touches to really showcase everything he's capable of. All right. I'm going to buy some time here. We're winding down our final mock draft of the day. This is the third one we're doing for the Philadelphia Eagles. I made a bunch of picks so far. A few more to go, and we're gonna wrap up the stream. We're just gonna end it there, cut it off at about maybe an hour, maybe 55 minutes. Philadelphia up again. The running back's still there. Nope, they're gone, which means I don't really want to consider the rest of the running backs. The rest of the quarterbacks are also not that great. Welcome to the board. Give me a bunch of edge rushers, corners, and safeties. I have a feeling. Jake Ferguson might actually fit what they're trying to do. He's a pretty good blocking tight end from what I gathered so far. Yeah, I could see Jake Ferguson working out actually in that system, just being the kind of guy they need. Kellen Dice is also on the board. Run pass option scheme would probably work really well with Philadelphia, considering what they have at QB. Yep, I'm going to go offensive tackler. Just for the future, you have to build up depth at offensive tackle. You don't want to be like the Green Bay Packers this year and have all your tackles get hurt, or like the Colts last year, or not the Colts, the Chiefs last year. It just doesn't work out. And you have to have depth at tackle, or at least one guy back there you can trust to be a backup and be solid at it. Jake Ferguson's still on the board. That's going to fit scheme perfectly. I'm taking him. Get yourself a tight end that can catch passes and block. All right. See how many more picks I got. Two more after this one, both in the 6th round. Okay, so I'm going to wait to get a running back until then. I could take Keaton Slovis, but that really wouldn't inspire me. I don't think that's you're going to be doing much with that pick. Jeffrey Gunner's pretty good. Coastal's quietly produced a pretty solid amount of prospects over the past 2 years. That's not a bad program. You don't want to snub your nose at Coastal. They got some good players there. All right, Jeffrey Gunter it is. Double off that edge rusher. Like I have no problem in this draft. How good it is, I have no problem doubling up at edge, doubling up at corner. You probably don't want to double up at safety just because it's not a high value position spot. Maybe you'll double up at receiver, take one early, take one late. I can see that. But I think really corner, edge, those are the spots you want to double up at if you're going to do it at all. I think I have 2 more picks. This one and then one more. Yeah. All right, show me the running backs. Let's see. Jerrion Ely is that kind of catch of the backfield type dude. Chad White's already talked about. I really like him. Kenny Brooks from Oklahoma, just smooth and consistent. Tyler Goodson from Iowa. BYU running backs pretty strong. Abram Smith. I'm taking Abram Smith just because I like the idea. Power back. Strong. Not necessarily just pure power back. Got good contact balance, good strength. I just love his playing style. And I think it would be fun to take him in one more mock. You think Bo Collins is doing better now? I think Bo Collins is doing much better now. I'm glad we have him on the team because he really stepped up at points this year. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's actually stepped up a lot of times this year in games when we needed him to. Kind of like I don't want to call him an X factor per se, but he's sort of like that for Clemson. When Justin Ross was hurt, we're not performing well. When Nagata was hurt, Ladson, who's transferring now, was not playing that well. But Collins had 137 yards against Wake Forest. I'm looking at the numbers right now. 137 against Wake, 104 against Louisville, 3 touchdowns in consecutive games. Not much against South Carolina, but we didn't really need him to have much of a game that time around. So even if he's not like a starter, even if he's not receiver 1 or receiver 2, just having him be an active part of the offense to me is enough. Because you have a guy like Bo Collins who gets 600 yards a year and 6 touchdowns or something like that. I'll be happy with that out of Bo Collins because we need him to be a part of this offense because he and DJ actually had a pretty good connection. DJ never really had that connection with any of the other receivers except Bo Collins, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's really how it played out. All right, final pick. Uh, let's see. I don't want to go edge again, so I'm probably going to end up going corner, somewhat predictably. And this will be the time I finally take Riley Moss. It's just that he creates turnovers left and right for Iowa. He's been a turnover machine the past couple of years. He missed some games earlier this year, and they dearly missed him because they had some struggles in the secondary during that time. Uh, I think Riley Moss, maybe not the most physically gifted corner of the bunch, but the ball seems to find him, or he seems to find the ball at either one. And sometimes that just works out. Sometimes you just get that touch, and if it works, it works. Don't question it. Just roll with it. And Riley Moss joins a stable of very young, but potentially a very good group of corners for Philadelphia. I'm going to save this as Philly Mock 1 because there's just too many picks to do it all in one screenshot. But yeah, that's going to be it for now. I'm officially wearing my voice down. I'm sorry if your viewers just joined the stream late. You can obviously go back and rewatch it. But I've just been doing random mock drafts. Did 3 of them, one for Houston, one for Philly, and one for Atlanta. I did some mock drafts, just threw some picks around, talked some prospects. Can I stream more? I can definitely stream more. I just have to find time because I am doing a live stream on Facebook for our website called The Grueling Truth on Monday nights. That's the draft show. I'm doing my writing, obviously, every week. I think 3 or 4 articles a week at this point. On my newsletter, which you can look at in the description below. If there's a description for the stream, you can check that out. It's free. All my content there is free. And I've been doing the videos here, and I have a part-time job. It's kind of a little bit of running through a wall. I never have enough time in the day to do everything I want to, unfortunately. But I will absolutely try to stream more often. We're coming up on an hour now for the stream today, and I hope to do one more stream this week like this. I'm going to try to set it at doing 2 streams a week, and we'll hopefully pull that off. But not going to happen every week. I can certainly try, though. But for now, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. Game with Brady, thank you so much for being an active part of the audience and really helping make this podcast run a lot smoother. I do appreciate that. But for now, guys, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to